So Bill, we caught up last week in London and we're here again today in Wilton. You're Chief Exec of Wilton Group. Tell me, Bill, where did the journey all begin?
It began at the start, I guess. Basically, I always hankered to run my own business. And that stems back from something that happened to me when I was 18 years old. And the guy I worked for at that time, he said I was going to be the managing director of his company one day. And anyway, that didn't happen because I was actually headhunted at a very young age, at 22. Then headhunted again, and then at 32 years old, I decided it was time to take the plunge.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked long and hard, thought about the size of the business I wanted to try and create. Worked out, do I want to go on my own or do I want to go with somebody else? And I figured that the size of business I wanted to create, I would just literally work in 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, never get a holiday. And obviously with having a family as well, they would miss out. So I decided to take a partner, and so myself and Steve Glenn started the business off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Early days, Bill, what was your core skill set? What did you train with?
Well, at 16 years old, I started an apprenticeship as a plater.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, the guy Steve Glenn, who I set up business with, he was a plater as well. He's 1 or 2 years older than me, and so we both had the same skill set from that point of view. But my career path was different to his. He stayed working on the tools, and I careered off into basically running projects, looking after logistics, looking after businesses, growing businesses. I was QA manager, superintendent offshore, and so, when you come back together at, say, 32 years old, we'd both gone on a different journey, although it was similar. And so I said to him quite simply, the way I look at it, it's two sides to a business, our business. It's black and white. So black is like looking after all the trades, make sure the jobs get done. The white side is obviously bidding, estimating. It's looking at things like working with banks, producing the business plan, quality assurance, health and safety, that type of thing. So I could actually do both, but I offered the possibility for Steve to do the white side as well if he wanted to. And we both agreed probably best for the business if he did the black side, looked after all the jobs, make sure they were delivered on time, and I did the white side. So that's how it started.
How did you know early on, Bill, that you were going to be the one that had the business mind and take the business forwards on that side?
Well, between the two of us,
yeah,
I think it was just fundamentally because our career paths had just worked out differently.
Mm-hmm.
He had stayed within very much within the manufacturing sections, whereas I'd actually moved out of manufacturing and into management. And what I was looking to try and do is, as I moved, I didn't move to a lot of companies, maybe 3 at all. But during those 3 companies, I learned how to look after cash. Mm-hmm. I learned how to look after people. One of the important things for me was when I was only very young. I mean, I was in charge of a shutdown on a blast furnace.
Mm-hmm.
And there would have been about, 30, 40, 50 guys. I was in charge of it. And I'll have been 21, 22, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing was that you had to learn to be able to respect people who were older and better than you were. Mm-hmm. Which was a valuable lesson actually, because I'm a young kid, but I was in charge of the thing. Mm-hmm. And how do you get people who are significantly older, significantly more experienced than you, to actually listen and follow the directions that you wanted? That was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think you were given so much responsibility early on?
I really enjoyed what I was doing. So I remember I'm very, very competitive. So I would race myself. Mm-hmm. So when you first started off the apprenticeship, I was fortunate. I served my time in a very small place where you got to do everything. So you were welding, plating, you were using press machines, tools, big saws, driving forklifts. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't anything that you couldn't do. And I tell the youngsters now. So I try and get youngsters in this boardroom every 2 weeks. you know, 10, 20 of them, and explain if you work hard, people do pick up what you're doing, go that extra mile. People do associate you with doing that extra work, and that gives you a chance to move on quicker.
So talk us through, Bill, what about the journey and the growth of Wilton Group? Where did you take it from those early days? Everyone loves a good headhunter, but from the early days of your early career through to the plan and the vision that you had for building Wilton Group?
So we started off, the vision was always quite, well, I thought the vision was normal. But then try and take your business plan to a bank and tell them that you think it's normal. And they tell you that it's absolutely bonkers and it'll never work. So the first 3 banks we went to, won't name them, but went to 3 reputable banks, you know, and so I went along with this business plan with Steve, and no chance, absolutely no chance.
How big was the vision then?
Oh, hey, honestly, I didn't think it was that big. But looking back now, I suppose, you know, now I've worked with a lot of young startups. I can see now why they maybe thought it was a little bit too ambitious. But certainly set the thing off. I seem to remember the 4th bank they went to was the Yorkshire Bank, and the Yorkshire Bank was, back in the day, was nicknamed the Penny Bank. You know, so I didn't associate that as a business bank, although it is. It kind of has been, and it was at the time. But going back to it, it's like the old-fashioned way. Partner manager looking you in the eye, looking at your business plan, saying, "Look, you know, I think you guys can do this." I said, "Great, you know, fantastic." And it was a case of enough to give me a house. I went, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, if we got to." So that's what we had to do. So we literally gave away, both of us gave away our houses for, I seem to remember, it was a £30,000 overdraft facility. And when you roll forward 11 years, we took the £30,000, we paid the £30,000 back the following year without using it, and then didn't go overdrawn for the next 11 years.
Wow.
So pretty impressive growth.
How did you grow the company in terms of turnover and headcount? How big did it actually become?
So I think from memory, we'd around 2008, we bought PDMS, and that was an engineering design company. And the fabrication was growing, the design engineering company grown quite significantly, and I think around about 2011, 12, something like that, I seem to remember it was just under 800 people that we grew from 2 to 800, yeah.
Did you not struggle with working capital to actually fund all of that through the growth?
The idea was that in 2010, we thought it would be a good idea to try and find somebody with deep pockets to support the business. So we went with a private equity company to bring them in. And they certainly, you know, the company, you can see a sharp increase in growth when they joined the business, because they've got more of a focus on growth. And obviously they, how can I put it without being disrespectful, they understood that it was important to spend money, to make money. And so, you know, they wouldn't think twice about paying a lot of money for a person, for example. Whereas, you know, I think previous to that, we would have been a little bit sort of, well, we'll pay this much, but maybe not that to that extent. But to them, growth was everything, so they would pay anything to get the right people in to drive the business forward.
And looking back, could you have achieved the same growth any other way without having a PE partner?
I think that whether you know, you hear a lot of good stories, a lot of bad stories about that situation. You know, I put it down to a point in case that I think if we'd have had managed more money in terms of overdraft facility when we were growing the business, might have been a better outcome. You know, but it was certainly an experience. Yeah.
And the PDMS venture, that was successful, but that was very different because it was engineering services and engineering design. That's not your background. How did you know to acquire that business?
That came about because we were based in Teesside fundamentally, All of our work was oil and gas. Oil and gas is definitely, without a doubt, sort of attributable to Aberdeen. So there's an Aberdeen bubble, as everybody says, and if you're not in the bubble, you're not in the bubble. So we decided to buy into it. I'd met one of the directors at a previous meeting. Thought they were a bunch of good guys, actually. We had 4 directors, they had 4 directors. The bizarre thing was, when you sat people in their seats across each other against it, you know, you could actually say, well, he's like Steve, you know, he's like Paul, he's like the other Steve, and he's like me, you know. So they had the same sort of attributes, so very hard-working and very focused and driven people. So it was a match that I thought that was going to work, definitely.
And timing-wise, it felt as though that acquisition and the timing when you actually came out the other side of that was quite fortuitous, given obviously things that did change in the sector.
Yeah, so you know, 2013, the private equity company exited during, I would say, probably 2014. I think that's when the oil and gas crash just literally kicked in, and everybody started to suffer with lack of work and that sort of thing. Then it was a race to the bottom, unfortunately, for a lot of companies that didn't survive. It was just a question of, you know, basically getting your head together, you know, what's the art of the possible, look for other projects, looking for other markets, and that's what we did to get through that blip.
For those people that have never actually lived through the oil and gas downturn, and obviously it happens in other sectors,
yeah,
how bad was it?
Well, that was the worst that I've ever experienced. I've experienced some bad ones. I remember when I was an apprentice, when I started, 79, I think. You know, I think 80, I think, around that time. I remember being a bit of a dip then as well. And I think there was like every sort of 8 to 10 years, it would be, you know, rise and fall. So boom and bust scenario, they used to call it. But from our point of view, this one, we felt that it was going to be bad, and it's been the worst one. So literally, you know, I think we've done one project in oil and gas in 5 years, where we were 100% oil and gas prior to that.
And when it fell off a cliff, how many guys did you have? What was typically going through the works?
I think roughly in my head, I would say, let's say we had 800, and there'll have been 300 with PDMS. PDMS was obviously unsold, so that reduced the numbers down to 500, and then we reduced the numbers right down, probably to 150, something like that, which is really tough on the people, but we have got good HR, and we said to the HR, let's treat them with respect, let's try and get them placed elsewhere. And we got quite a few people placed, actually, which was great. And then obviously as the business grew, we brought quite a few of them back. So.
And just to go even deeper with that, Bill, what on earth was going through your mind when it was all falling off a cliff?
What was going on in my mind was I was like a robot. So I mean, literally, it was quite simple. You know, you have a choice here. You know, you deliver and do something, make it happen. So work out where everybody sits in the round at the time. You've got to basically have somebody who can focus on doing what's got to be done with the people who are here. Who's going to look after the people that are going? Who's going to look after the people who are staying? Managers, directors, receptionists, all those types of people to sit and talk to and give notice to, and stuff like that was really, really tough. But at the same time, somebody had to then look at another focus, strict focus on what do we do it's now in survival mode, and what do you do to thrive and survive, and how do you get into other markets? And that was my role.
And what did you do in survival mode?
I decided to work out what do we do best. And what we do best is build large, complicated structures. Now, normally they work for the oil and gas industry. So who else would want large structures? So I looked at the nuclear industry first. that was going to be a very slow burner to get in there, to break in, to get all the accreditations, that sort of thing. So I decided against, I did try, you know, don't get me wrong, I did try, and there was opportunities there, but they would take a long time, and that I didn't have that time. So where's the quick wins? Where's the low-hanging fruit? And that was an offshore wind. So we teamed up with another fabricator actually, Burnt Island up in Scotland, and we worked well with them to produce some large structural frames, platforms. And then we moved on to the Hornsea projects and such like that. So we were successful, sort of best in class, and that all went really well. So that got us over this, you know, this instead of falling, we're now rising. And then
looking back, do you think that was actually a good thing that this happened?
I think I don't know. I often think things happen for a reason. I think that you know, I think everybody, the whole team, had to sit down and be mindful of what was happening and how we could get around it. I remember phoning the bank up and saying to the bank, look, you might think I'm an absolute raving lunatic here, but I think this is going to be the worst crash of all, and I think that we need to prepare for it. And it was funny because the bank said, oh, we've not heard anything. You know, we've got experts in the field, they've got the fingers on the pulse, ear to the ground, not heard a single blip.
I remember some of our friends with the operators were warning us a year in advance, but all our markets were busy locally. Yeah. Because it hadn't hit us. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Well, a year before that, that's when I'd have been.
Exactly.
You see, so and so I was saying to people, and they were saying to me, well, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, "Well, I know I'm looking at all of the hot prospects, the pipelines, and inquiries. Nothing there. Nothing there." I was thinking, my goodness, you know, this is really scary. So just really, I mean, you've got to keep a really clear head. Just let everything else go to one side, and you focus on pulling that new work in.
And it sounds as though that's directly transferable to any sector, not just
anything
falling off a cliff. Or
oh yeah, anybody. It's like, you know, don't panic, Mr. Manrin. It's literally is focus on doing what you got to do.
So what's happening at Wilton at the moment?
Exciting times. So we've got Wilton Engineering, we've got Universal Coatings, and we also have, it's a separate company, but we have PC Logistics as well. Okay. So all three businesses are reasonably busy. We've all got, you know, a fair bit of work on, but you know, looking forward to 2020, 2021, 22, 23. I think we're going to be exceptionally busy.
So you're the fastest Northeast company 2011 and 2012. Yeah. Is there going to be any repetition of that, Bill, over the coming years?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I honestly think so. Good. I think that
you heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Yeah. I think 2011, I remember it was that we were the fastest growing business, which was exciting at the time. And then 2012, we were the fastest growing business. Always the fastest growing large business then. Okay. I can't remember now, but I don't think it had ever been done before. It was done last year actually, funnily enough. But I would say that, I'm going to put my head on the block. I was going to say something else there. I would put my head on the block and say I think that we would probably be the fastest growing.
I really hope you do, Bill. I remember the fun times of coming here many years ago and just watching the whole thing expand, and it's a great story.
It's exciting, you know, people, you know, the thing is that, you know, the Northeast, the people here, they're all hard working. And here at Wilton, I like to have fun, right? Because I think if you come to work, you're here more than when you're at home. You know, more hours actually, you know, working, talking to people and doing stuff. And I think if you've got to make that fun, you know, you can't be too serious about it. Although it's a serious business, you know. I mean, I love the fact that when the Duke of Gloucester came along, right, Graham Bryn, who was our first apprentice, he was here 25 years. he actually gave the Duke of Gloucester a present on behalf of the company.
Wow.
Then the Duke of Gloucester gave him a present for his 25th anniversary for being with the business. But what you don't realise is that, so these kids are coming at 16 years old, and they've got an idea of what they're going to do, but they're not fully informed. But the job, it morphs through over the years, and they understand what they've got to do. So these guys at 16, you know, and they all go through the same thing. When they get to 18, they drink too much, they come in too late, they get girlfriends, and, you know, and everything's distracted to those, and you get the girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever, and then, of course, they get through all of that. They meet the one that they're going to settle down with. They have a family, buy a house, buy a car, bigger house, bigger car, bigger house, bigger, you know, and we watch that grow, and that is fantastic when you see that. That's when you bring apprentices through and you see that sort of thing going on, and then you see this guy who came as 16-year-old, didn't really know what he was here for, and suddenly he's the production manager for the whole site.
Hugely rewarding. Yeah.
Oh, I mean that Graham. I mean, we were doing the Conoco Phillips project, and I think we had about 650 people on site here, you know, with the subcontractors and such like. And he was looking after them all. He was our first apprentice. It's amazing, isn't it?
And how old was he?
16 plus 25.
Yeah, so still progressive.
Yeah, so fairly young, yeah.
Looking back at those projects, you know, obviously the business has evolved. What were those projects like with your big, complex Conoco Phillips type projects? Would you ever go for those again, or are they? Yeah,
well, no, I always say interesting, you know, and I think what you got to understand is, so, you know, there's when you start these projects off, you know, you look at them in the round, you know, so what's the art of the possible here in terms of delivery? What's the client want? And every single oil and gas project that you take on board, there's the first thing in the book is the heavy lift vessel. So a heavy lift vessel is going to be bobbing about in the North Sea, you know, that XY coordinate, yeah, on this date, and you have to be ready to deliver it, and you can't not be ready, you know, and so you've got that to plan through. The quality's got to be super, you know, on top class quality. Health and safety is really important, and you know, and every client's different. You know, so when I look back, you know, I think that sometimes that you know, lessons learned, I would say, is if you feel that, you know, you get pushed into something that I don't actually think you can actually deliver on, you've got to say. Otherwise, it could cause some real heartache for everybody. You know, so you know, I look back at the Conoco project, and when we delivered the Conoco project, the guy that was, I think he'd been there 40 years, they always have like an after-sale party. So when the ship sailed with our badge sail with our product on, he said it was the most complete module that he's ever seen delivered into the North Sea in 40 years. Wow. You know, so.
And that includes the old sites on Swan.
Everything. He's worked all over the world. Okay. So he said the most complete project, not a single screw to put in. It was lifted offshore, 5 o'clock in the morning, lifted up in the air, taken on. 2 hours later, it was in. Then they plugged it in. So it's a plug and play thing. You know, so things like that. You know, and I think that when I look back now, some of the most demanding projects, definitely the most successful ones is where we've actually collaborated from day one
with the client.
But yeah, we make this pact, and we're going to collaborate. You know, we're going to set 2 people aside. It could be me and your senior guy. So if anything goes wrong, and it will, you know, it will go wrong, and we're not a blame culture, so we won't blame you. You don't blame us. You know, but it's a problem, you know, or it's an issue. We'll take it to one side. Let's deal with that issue. Let's not create a blame culture and stuff like that. So when we set off like that, extremely successful. When you get a them and us scenario,
horrendous.
Really battling from day one.
That's
you know.
equally true of my business. So
yeah, battling from day one.
So looking at you overall, Bill, what's your kind of attitude to risk? How big a project would you take on?
Well, I've always been the risk taker. Yeah, so I've always been a risk taker. I always think that being an entrepreneur, you are fundamentally, inherently a risk taker. You see something, and when I say you're not just, putting it all on red, you're not gambling this thing. What you're looking at is, this is a big ask, this. And so then you look at it and you break it down, you think, well, actually, what you measure the risk. So then, once you understand what's the worst that could happen, what's the best that could happen, how can we mitigate the worst, and then you work all that out, then you make an informed decision. Some people, I flippantly have talked about all sorts of things. I talk about when we bought the site here in Port Clarence, and I had the meeting with Yap Cruiser, and and I said, right, Yap, I want to buy your site. And he said, well, why? And I told him about the apprenticeships and building big modules and everything. And he stood up and went, I will sell you my site.
Do you think that was important, the apprenticeship piece?
Oh, when I said apprentices, he jumped off his chair, he put his arm out, he said, I will sell you my site. And I went like that to shake his hand, and I went, oh, how much?
That's interesting. I never realised that.
And oh yeah, that's how it happened. But people think, oh, he's just gone there and he's just like, I literally, a phone call on the evening, went to see him 9 o'clock in the morning. By 10 o'clock, we bought this site. And and that's how quick I did it. And people go, well, oh, he's just been dead lucky there. What they don't realise is, I'm literally thinking all night about, how much the rate's going to be, how much can we pay it back, how we're going to do this, how we can do that. Will it allow us to build our business? I've got the other directors there. Is this what we want? Is this where we can grow the business? All that type of stuff was taken into account. And so it wasn't just a flippant,
Because it feels like if you didn't have that site, you wouldn't have been able to deliver the vision.
It's
absolutely cool.
I was out walking on Saturday, and candidly, I took a photograph of one of these pano photographs, and I walked down this route, and there was 2 routes left and right. I thought to myself, do you know what? I've been here before. Not that in that spot before, but when you sat there and you're going, actually, I am where I am now. If I go left, something different. If I go right, it's something different. If I just carry on as I am, that's easy.
Where do you feel like you are now?
Do you know what? I'm going to climb a mountain.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
You made some big claims early on in this chat.
Oh, no, honestly, yeah. I need the ice crampons for this next one.
Okay, very good, yeah. Bill, you are a very popular guy. You guys like working for you on site. Why do people like you? Why do you have such a popularity?
So I'll give you a flavour. I think that, so if I'll run this past you, right? So we still do. So site walkarounds to make sure that the site's right, that the people are being looked after, that it's safe. Is there any things we want to do to the site to make it better? Can we look at logistics to make things quicker, smarter, that sort of thing? And one day I said, can we go into the toilets? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. So popped into the toilets. And the reason why I do that is I want to see what they're like. Are they good enough for me? If they're not good enough for me, they're not good enough for the staff or the workforce. So I went in the first one and I went, no, let's just, everything finish it. Everybody out of here, right, because we've got huge mess rooms, Everybody out of here into the other mess rooms. How have they got like that? Because when we first kicked off, we had them all done out, and now they weren't looking very good at all. Went up to the bait rooms, same thing. Opened all the microwaves up, clean. I'm a bit OCD as well, by the way. So opened them up, they were all dirty. The bridges were dirty. And I went, no, right, all out, right. And then we put them into another bait room, and then I had that all done, changed, painted out, new fridges, new microwaves, new toilets, everything. I went back to them and said, look, that wasn't your fault that they were like that. That was management's fault, that they let it get like that, right? But if you all do a little, right, then it saves somebody doing a lot. So please look after it. that's the sort of thing that just natural to me. You know, the door's always open. I've saved quite a few marriages in my time. I used to work day shift and night shift, like, you know, so I'd sit for the crossover. So I mean, it might have been like, I remember 9 o'clock one night, sat in my office, and this guy comes in, bit down, and you know, things weren't looking too good with his marriage and everything. Sat down with him for an hour. We left, came back to see me the next day, suggested a few things. He came back the next day, said, you know, it looks like might turn the corner.
So, Bill, would you say that you are someone that loves people?
Yes, most definitely. So I think that inherently, I think that when people talk about HR and the need for HR, you know, I'm just naturally that way inclined. You know, so making sure that people, you know, have all the equipment, you know, so that they're working safely, making sure that they're working in a happy environment, doors always open. I interviewed nearly everybody for quite a few years when the business started, and I don't employ table bangers, people who shout and scream. You never see me lose my temper.
Right.
Always really quite just chilled and calm, and that, I think that emulates throughout the business. I employed Steve Pearson, who was our MD, when he was, I think probably 20 years ago now. And, you know, he's a very calm, rational guy, great person, you know, and so he's there to carry the business on when I've curled my toes, I guess. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, you know, I think you get so much back. And it's all about this giving and everything. So when you give, you don't give to receive, you give, but it just, if it's natural, it just comes back to you in bucket loads. You know, some of those people that I work with, somebody once said to me, best place I've ever worked in my life, I've been offered an absolute fortune to go offshore. I want to do that. So unfortunately I'm going to have to leave, but I just want to let you know, it's the best place I've ever worked, and I don't know what you've got, but if you could put it in a bottle and sell it, you'd make a fortune.
It's lovely, yeah.
Yeah.
So you may not want to answer this question, Bill, but who has been your best hire?
Good question. I don't know. I mean, it's funny this, because, you know, when people come through the gate, we've got our gate guy, the security guy, Trevor, and every single day somebody says something really nice about him. He's an absolute star. And when the school kids come here, I tell them about teamwork. I used to play basketball. So there's 10 people, 5 people on the course, and you've got to go 5 up and 5 back. And if one of you isn't working, then the team doesn't win. It's the same in here. It's very difficult. You know, everybody plays an amazing part. So the people on, as I said, you come and meet Trevor first, then you meet Juliet, another amazing person, and then you'd be sent off to see one of the project managers. They're all really nice people. They're good at the jobs. It's so difficult. If I had to pick one, I would say, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can. I say probably Steve Pearson, because he's a
good welding engineer.
He's a good welding engineer. He's a good mechanical engineer. He's a good MD. Christine Stobbs, an amazing FD. Now Christine's come along. She said, I've broken her. I said, don't say that to too many people, will you please, God? I said, what do you mean by that? And she said that she's gone from the corporate side to working in a almost like a family business side. And she said it's just so much it's not easier, it's just so much more relaxed. You know, you're part of a team, you're not a number, you know. And she said that what she means by having broken her is she doesn't know if she could go back to the corporate world.
So do you think if you ended up with people in your business that weren't the right people by values and behaviours, do you think they'd naturally leave of their own accord?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you know, I mean, you know, we've got some fantastic people here that have come here. I mean, Kev Ness is another one. I mean, Kev joined the business, you know, and we brought Kevin to run a section of business of his own. He was very successful at that, and then we saw a wider picture for him, and he's just grown into the role.
Mm-hmm.
I mentor him. I mentor a lot of people actually, and but you know, so we get on really well. It's difficult to pick one,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, but there's so many.
And this is a very heavy engineering environment. What is your view on diversity within a business like this and diversity within a board?
So I think that we were one of the first companies to be working with female welders.
Mm-hmm.
So we took them from college, very successful at what they were doing. You know, I've got Christine as a board member, and I always say when I speak anywhere, if you actually don't have a female on your board, you're missing out big style.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she brings so much, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I think women in business are just great anyway. I think that, you know, I've very much been against the male, pale and stale
Mm-hmm.
people on business tables that you go along to. I think it should be much more diversified. I think that one thing I would suggest is when you see an advert advertised for a person, it should be for a person.
Mm.
So the role should be A and the salary is B. And then so when everybody's going for that job, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. I honestly believe there should be no difference between paying a man and a woman to do the same role.
And even your own career development, Bill, how on earth did you get your OBE?
In the bath. I was in the bath. Oh my goodness. So I was in the bath and this letter arrived and it was soaking wet. And literally soaking wet. And I peeled it open and the brown envelope, return envelope inside there had stuck to the header of the main piece of paper.
Yeah.
So I'm reading this thing and I didn't quite fully understand what it meant. So I read it, I was trying to like speed read it. And then I turned the page over and it had OBE on the top and I thought, oh my God, can it be? I started going through the paperwork and it was. So proud, you know, so proud. I think I got it for services to the offshore wind industry, services to engineering, you know, just wide field that is. But the one I really sort of struck home to me was services to the community of Teesside. And that for me was just a lump in the throat job, you know. I really enjoy doing that, you know. It's giving back, helping people who can't help themselves, you know. Trying to put 2 people together or 4 people or a group together to make a difference makes it's just such a joy for me. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, I think there's no one would, you know, take that away from you, Bill. You truly deserve someone that's giving back constantly to the community.
Yeah, I've enjoyed every minute doing that. Love it.
So tell me about recent things. Obviously saw on the telly with the recent election, saw our good friend Boris that was on site, and I saw one of your guys with the We Love Boris sign, which is unusual for a fabrication site to have. What was going on then?
Well, typically, obviously, when you got a senior cabinet member coming to site, you get very little notice. We got notice on the Monday, and he was coming on the Wednesday, but I didn't tell too many people. But it could be very quiet, just in the boardroom, really, because we've got to keep it quiet. Obviously for security reasons. And then we announced that Boris was coming along that afternoon. And so I got into the workforce. And then later on in the afternoon, before he actually arrived, I went in to see everybody. So I'd got the people in Universal Coatings into their mess room, and I don't know, maybe 80 people or something like that. There's one guy stood right at the back of the hall, and he had this placard on, "We love Boris," and it was in red, and I know he's a massive Labour supporter. So anyway, so I looked at him and I shouted, "Oi, Steve!" said, Steve, loving the sign, mate. Yeah. I said, why is it in red? He said, only lipstick I had left.
Yeah.
So, Steve, turn it round. What's on the back?
Mm-hmm.
You know, expecting something else, and nothing on the back. So I asked him what question he was going to ask and why, and if he got a chance. And he said the question he would ask is about the NHS, and was Boris going to sell the NHS, or was he actually going to, you know, help and grow it? And I thought that was really good, you know. And and I think that after the event, he was interviewed on Sky, and I said to him, Steve, would you mind telling me who you vote for? He said, I've always been a Labour supporter, quite a strong one. And would you mind telling me who you're going to vote for now? He said, I'm going to vote Conservative. And the reason for that is I just don't believe in Jeremy Corbyn's agenda. You know, I think that if he does what he says he's going to do, I think it'll put the country in jeopardy, and I'm not prepared to do that. So I thought it was, you know, quite interesting. But yeah, he signs his holiday form now as Steve dash Boris's advisor. Knockout. But no, it was you know, when the guys came in, I said, look, you know, I don't care whether you vote red, blue, green, yellow, pink with black dots on it. Boris is our Prime Minister, and I'd like you to respect him as much as you can. And please think about questions you might ask and that are going to affect your lives, your kids' lives, your grandkids' lives. Think about questions like that. Nothing stupid. Let's make this good for Teesside. And the result was, of course, it was an amazing piece of footage that was that we got out of the Boris visit, because you know, I thought that I was so proud. Somebody said to me, who's that lad smiling in the background all the time? Of course it was me. And what's he smiling for? And I was smiling because I was so proud. So proud of the workforce and the questions he asked. You know, and yeah, that was really good.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely been across all the, you know, the TV screens and, you know, media. It's been seen by a lot of people nationally.
It's nationally. Well, obviously I was with you in London and last week, and ever so many people asked me about it then, and I think, you know, it is what it is. You know, we did what we did, and I think it was a great event for Teesside.
So tell me about the next 5 years of your industry, Bill. What does that look like?
Good question. Well, I think that if we can get some collaboration with Europe and we can get some UK content going, I think the offshore wind industry could be quite markedly increased in terms of its turnover value, not just to Wilton but for the northeast of England. There are a lot of facilities to go into Dogger Bank and all the way down the east coast, Scotland right through down to Lowestoft area, the south coast. I'm going to see the guys over in Ireland at the end of March to discuss about working offshore wind for them, what it might mean for Ireland, because Ireland are still in the EU, you know. So I'm going to try and broker a deal where they can, if they think about it outside the box, they could work with Northern Ireland supplying stuff into them, you know, and getting the Irish sort of upscaling into offshore wind. I think probably going to be floating wind, mind you, but I can see the next 5 years, as long as the government, you know, put the pressure on people to actually think about and the wider issue in terms of we're not saying banging the table, you know, we want UK content because we're UK. It's because we've got the skills and we want to maintain those skills by bringing apprentices through, and without any sustainability and longevity we can't do that.
And I would say from our side, we see a lot of skills that are underutilised in the region.
Absolutely.
Loads of guys that could be fully engaged in very high quality work, whether it's design or working on your bigger projects. It's,
yeah, indeed.
What about the international arena? How easy is it for UK firms to supply and compete against international supply chains?
It depends on what your product is. Obviously, you know, our product, I think the transition pieces that we're looking to build, they're about 600 tonne a piece, you know, so they're big lumps of kit to move around, and I think certainly offshore wind, they're looking to set up in the US and things like that, but even the US states are looking to have their own content. So the America, you know, let's make America brilliant again, you know, what they're doing there, they're keeping everything in house. You know, they've blocked China, they keep everything in house, and then, you know, looking at putting offshore wind turbines in America. Each state at the moment wants its own content, not American content, but even its own state, and so.
And I think we're blown away. You know, you look at with wind. You look at the scale of the onshore farms and fields. They are rammed full of onshore turbines. The density and the just sheer scale across the states is enormous compared to the UK. Yeah. So completely different scale to our project.
It is. It is. I believe today. I think the government have announced they've lifted the ban on onshore wind today. So I expect to see quite a lot of movement in onshore wind as well in the UK. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I guess if you look at energy, the UK needs energy. The key thing for everything is for the lights to turn on and stay on. And we need to try and produce as much energy as we can, so we're self-reliant. You know, I think we're still obviously, I would say, bussing in gas, or bringing gas in on gas pipelines and what have you through Europe, through from Russia, I think, and so we need to be mindful of that, and I guess that offshore wind offers a degree of longevity on that front.
And what about your own personal development, Bill? What will you be doing over the next 5 years aside from business?
Aside from business?
Yeah, or maybe the two combined.
Gosh, well, somebody asked me a question the other day. What do I do for relaxment and enjoyment? I mean, I actually do business during the day and do business during the night. I do business during the morning as well. So
it's an interesting one to touch on, because I think a lot of people don't realise how many businesses are you involved with?
Right. So I've got 3 businesses that are my core businesses, which I mentioned earlier on. Then I either have invested or mentor at last count 14 other companies.
Which is your favourite?
Can't possibly say. I couldn't possibly say. I haven't got a favourite. They're all good.
Like children.
Like children, they're all good. Yeah. They're some young, some old. But and I really get a kick out of doing that. You know, I enjoy seeing new businesses, new fledgling businesses getting going. The energy that they've got is incredible. Some new ideas, innovative ideas. I mean, they're moving into different things, different fields that I don't know anything about. You know, some of them. So really quite interesting. Yeah.
How important is the network to you? Because you've got a spanning network across very, you know, regions, demographics.
Yeah. I don't know how that's worked. I don't know. I'm not really sure how that's sort of happened really. But you know, sometimes it takes me half an hour to get in a place, and it might take me half an hour to get out of a place. You know. When I used to go at the gym sometimes, I would rock up in the gym. It would take me literally 20-30 minutes to get changed, because I know that many people. It's lovely, don't get me wrong, I love it, I think it's great, but literally sometimes you know, I get stopped all the way as I'm going through the gym. Even when I get the reception, I get stopped. I'm coming through, as soon as I open the door for somebody, hey, how are you doing, you know? But that is just great. And when I talk at these events, I talk about collaboration. Like the only C word I use is collaboration. So and it is, and I think Teesside is really up for that collaboration. It's got a good collaborative spirit, and you know, I just love helping people like that.
And how do you decide what to get involved? Because that's the challenge as a busy person, what you get involved with and what you
Well,
don't.
if you ask anybody that knows me, say what's his downfall, and unfortunately the word no is not in my vocabulary. So, you know, I have been a victim of taking on too much.
And do you find you have to pull back from that when it goes a bit crazy?
No, I manage to work through it, but I get to the edge sometimes. I think, Jesus, I've done too much here. I need to try and, you know, not offer up so much, you know.
Do you have a mentor now?
Do you know, I don't. I used to have a business coach, and she was probably about, I don't know, maybe he's about, I hope she's not listening, because she's I was younger than that. I'm going to say about 10 or 15 years younger than me. And she's about 5 foot nothing. She's like that, and I was scared stiff of her. Jane, I call her, and she was just amazing. So she was my business coach, and I decided I needed a business coach because you don't know what you don't know. And I thought, well, you know, if I want to try and grow this business and make it more open and accessible to other companies and people and everything else, I need to learn more. So I took Jane on as a coach, and yeah, she's a bit like Nanny McPhee. So when she, you know, she like tapped the stick and said, "That's it. You know, I can't teach you anymore. I'll see you later."
And do you find you're passing that knowledge down through
Yeah,
your
very
mentees?
much. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. So I've just actually only today spoke to Kev, I was telling you earlier on, and I said, look, I mean, there's a lady I've just met, and I think she would be a really good coach for you. So I mentor a lot of people, you know, I mentor Kev, but coaching and mentoring is different. So I think that I think he would greatly appreciate better coaching. So I've asked him to get in touch, and yeah.
If you had your time again, what would you do differently?
Do you know, I think I clearly, if somebody said if you had a wish, what would it be? And my wish would be, you know, put my head on my shoulders when I was 18 years old. Bingo. You know, watch out Richard Branson, I guess. But I think that, you know, I use this saying all the time, you don't know what you don't know. And, you know, I mean, I think what I've done with my business partners, my business directors, advisors, all that type of thing, we've tried to make the right decisions as we've gone through. And I think so from that point of view, I wouldn't change anything. I think I'd just do it the same. If I had the knowledge I had now, clearly I would do things differently. But you learn, and you learn by your mistakes. You know, you learn by, you know, being hurt. You know, people letting you down, people lying to you, saying that they're going to pay you. Yeah, we're going to pay you next week, Bill Ansley. You know, and then, you know, they owe you about 2-3 million quid, and they don't pay you, and they're they're just flagging, and they don't intend to pay you either. You know, that sort of thing is really difficult. But there's ways around that, and you learn that as you go through. So, I mean, you know, being burnt, being hit like that just strengthens you, I think.
And if you had one piece of advice for others to take away from your whole experience of...
I always say one, cash is king. No cash, no business. Literally, you know, I mean, literally, if you haven't got any cash, you've run out of cash, you can't go and get it. It's literally, you've run out of it, you're done. Dead in the water.
Absolutely. Hey Bill, I'm looking forward to catching up after you've achieved all these great things in the next coming years. Good. And yeah, thanks so much for your time, Bill. All the best. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.